Hi, Mary Lou here, and it is the first week of February, and January was a really rough month. My husband got COVID, I got influenza, we just had a lot of stuff that happened during January, and I still have some of my Christmas decorations out. It's just been crazy. So you know how it is when you live in a cold climate, people are sick, it's so cold, you're kind of indoors a lot more, and things get kind of cluttered. Plus, 2 of my children started college, so we've got extra books and just stuff around. Well, this cupboard, it is sort of our catch-all. And so all of these cupboards, this countertop, this is kind of where everything gets put as we come in. The good thing is that kind of helps keep the clutter down in the rest of the house, but right here it's just crazy. And I just get crazy if I have too much clutter around. And so look at this, we have decorations. We still have the dreidel game clear from early December, late November. We've got cleaning supplies, papers, medicine, books, calendars. This is about the only clear spot on this whole counter. And so I'm going to today go through and kind of figure out this whole system and figure out where do I want to put things, what space do I have. And so what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to do a really quick sort and get things where they need to go. Our laundry pods need to go in the laundry room. Why are they sitting here? Who knows? We have tools that there's a space for them in the garage. Plus we have a few tools in a drawer. Why are they sitting here? So these are the questions that we have to kind of answer. And let me just say, sometimes things get crazy and they get out of hand. And then when we feel better and we're able to, then we go through and organize and clean. I have a goal this year to organize every cupboard, every drawer, every room in my house. So I'm taking you on this journey and I'm going to show you kind of how I work through it. I measure the space I have. I kind of figure out what I want in this space, and then I will either create in my craft room or buy the things that I need to get this going. I'm trying to save money, so hopefully I can create most of what I need. And so let's get going. Okay, so let's talk about what I did. I piled all the mail in one spot, lots of mail, and then I have a pile of things that I could see right away needed to be filed in some business, in the business area in the office. We've got a lot of paperwork that is personal, and then I've stuck over here as well some business stuff that needs to be gone through. I didn't go through all the mail and every little piece of paper right now, because what I want to do is just see what's here and kind of think things through. I showed a video, months ago. It was probably one of the first videos I ever made and posted about this system that I have where I have these zip bags from the dollar store that I really like, and we use those to store people's things. But what I'm finding out is that we just have too much of every person's stuff. So I've been thinking about this, and I think what I'm going to do is create an area in the back hall for each person to have a little basket, an area where their stuff goes, and that's where it goes. So when they come home from class or they're sorting through their own mail, they actually have a spot to put their things, a bin, so that they can keep their stuff collected and not here. And then as those bins get full, then each person will need to go through their own bin and take care of their stuff. And that way it gives me a place when I see an envelope or a receipt that belongs to someone else that they might need to keep for tax purposes, or because they want to make sure this thing they bought is working or whatever, I can just put their stuff in that bin. And I found out that a lot of what was here was my daughter's stuff, that Anne, and she has a lot of craft stuff, coloring stuff. She has just a lot of arts and crafts kind of things, and so she needs her own bin. So that's going to be part of what I need to do, is create that system for everybody to put their stuff so that this counter can be useful instead of just a big clutter catcher. And that way my mind will be less cluttered too, because I found that out. When my house gets cluttered, my mind gets cluttered, and I get anxious and have a hard time, you know, just getting things done, because there's just too much stuff around. It's too much noise in my head. I don't know if any of the rest of you feel that way, but I have that issue. I'm sure there's someone out there that feels like that too. If you do, comment below, because I don't want to feel like I'm alone in this weirdness. Okay, so let's go through what I'm going to do with these cupboards. Now this cupboard, I really like this one, and it's not in too bad of shape. I'm keeping our coin savings here, so I don't know why we're keeping that here, and the nuts. This cupboard doesn't make a lot of sense to me. This in the middle here, this cupboard at least makes sense, because it's got all of our CDs and all of the music and listening stuff. So at least it makes sense, but I really don't like this problem here. Not sure what I'm gonna do about that, because it's not like we can shrink it down. So I don't know, it might have to stay that way. This is our medicine, vitamins, all of those things. This really just needs to be cleaned up, sorted through, and just organized. But I need to weed out what is old and expired. And so we're going to tackle that. Let's look at some of these things down below. All of these drawers that are here at one time were very nicely organized, just not anymore. So we're going to need to go through all three of these drawers and just get them so that we can find things. You can tell I had organized this one at one time, but we've just gotten too much stuff in there. We need to relook at it, see what we need now, what we don't need. And then here we're going to be dealing with electronics and get out of here the things we don't need anymore. This cupboard down here, we have boatloads of water bottles. I'm going to do some measuring in here and figure out a good system for our water bottles. And then over here, we've got a lot of kitchen things, and this one is well organized. I just need to go through and do a little bit of weeding out. And this appears like an empty drawer, but most of the time this is full of containers for leftovers and for lunches. And then the last one down here, this is a cupboard where I keep platters and trays and things, but these are glass. And that is a terrible way to store those. They will most likely get chipped or cracked. Now, as I was sorting this counter, I actually now have piles over here for each of my kids, things that need to go out to the garage. We've got spray painting tools and all kinds of things here. I've got a pile for recycle, for catalogs and magazines. So this is what I'm tackling in this video. It actually might take me a couple of days. Step one was clearing out, sorting, so I know what it is I need to deal with. What are my piles? And so step two, I'm going to just get a, notepad. I've got enough of these in that drawer. So I'm going to start writing down the dimensions of my cupboards so that I can get an idea of how big of containers I might want to use. And then this is also, as I'm measuring, going to be a time when I can kind of think through, what do I want here? What do I need here? And what needs to go somewhere else and be managed in a different way. So that's what this next step will be. Okay, now let me just take a minute and show you how I'm doing this. So what I'm doing is I draw a real basic picture, basic, of what this looks like. I label them. So this is, I'm calling my mail cupboard, our sound cupboard, and then the meds cupboard. And then I've measured each opening. Now the openings that matter really are the ones that are unmovable. Now in these two cupboards, in fact, all of the cupboards have movable shelves. It's just that this part of the cupboard I know is non-movable, but I know that all of these other shelves I can move so that I can change the height of what I can put on there. However, they all have certain set measurements as far as width. So I put that all in there. And then what I do is I just keep this with me in my purse. And then when I go to the store, as I'm in a place, I can look and go, now, will this container fit in that spot? Will it not? And what can I use? So I can also use that as I'm going around my house. If I look down in my storage room, I've got some containers down there. I can see if I can get something that fits. I'm one of those people that I need it clean and organized. So if I have a box that's one size and another in a different cupboard, I know that it's going to bug me. So I would rather have things look the same. I'd rather have them match, because I know that sort of cluttered, lots of colors and this and that, different sizes, is going to bug me. And so I know that that's what my organization style is. Yours may be different than that. You may particularly like opened, clear boxes so you can see what's inside. I prefer a box that's not clear. I want it labeled. I want to know clearly what's in there, except in certain cases, like in my medicine cupboard, they're clear. I like them that way. In the fridge, my containers are clear and I like it that way. But for some things, I would rather just have it be in a box that I'm not seeing all the clutter inside of the box. So think through, as you're doing this, what is kind of your organization style? How would you like to see it? Now, if you're not sure, a really good strategy would be to go online, look, I would just actually do a Google search of organization ideas, and you will see every style, every type of thing out there. There's just a lot of ways that you can approach this. So you kind of have to think through what you like, what matters to you. And for some people, the look of it doesn't matter at all. All they need is organized and able to find. And that's good to know. So kind of think that through. And as you're picturing that space, and picture that exact space, don't picture some random beautiful space. Use that space and picture what you would like it to be like. One other thing to keep in mind is your height and the height of the people in your home. I'm not tall, and so those top shelves become almost useless for me. And I know I have to arrange my shelves so that I can reach that. So I know that that's about as high as I can go on that shelf. Otherwise, the shelf is useless, and I get frustrated because I don't like being short, and so because I can't reach things. And so before I even start, I went through and I figured out what was the highest point that shelf could go for me to reach it. Now, there are people in the family taller, but you know what? I'm using this cupboard, and so I want to be able to reach it. So I put my cupboards at that maximum height. So I did that with that one and this one. That's maximum height for me to actually be able to grab something off of the shelf. Think about those two things as you're starting. Put your shelves at maximum height. Get your system written down so that you know what you're doing. So I'm going to finish measuring. I'm going to fine tune my drawing and my plan. I'm going to decide for sure what's going where, and I'm even going to write that on my plan so I know exactly where things are going. Think through your space and what you have, and there are ways to do this. Over the next day or two, we're going to get this tackled. I figured out what containers are going to go up in this cupboard, and I actually shopped my own house and found some things down in my storage room and my craft room that I could use up here that fit just right. And so I've divided them in categories based on what our family uses. So as we put them up, you'll see that, but I've got everything right in a place where it needs to be. Now I have just a box here that is a recycle box that I've just been throwing recyclables in. And then these are the meds that were all outdated. And I'm going to show you in just a minute what to do to dispose of those medications. And so let's go up into our cupboard and let's just get things put away now. Okay, the first thing I'm going to do, I talked to you about this shelf that's about as high as it can go for me. What I also don't like is when things get pushed to the back and then you can't reach them. So I found these two signs at the Dollar Tree, and two of them together is exactly perfect for to keep the two things that I'm putting up there from sliding to the back. And I really like that because I want my things to be right at the edge, easy to grab. And I'm going to make sure my labels go out because I've gone to the effort to put those labels on there. And those are just easy at night when it's time to take vitamins to just grab down and then just put back. So those two boards back there make it so that those don't slide back so far that I can't reach them. Love that. And for a couple of bucks, that's worth it. All right, then our next shelf, we're going to get these in here. So I've classified based on the category of medication. So we've got cold and flu, and then we've got pain. But in here then, I have some things that go in water that you mix. So I'm just putting those all there for an easy reach for whoever uses those. And then down on the bottom, we've got over-the-counter meds that are very specific use and supplements. And then I've got Anne's medications because hers is, because she has seizures and a few other issues. Hers are, right there so we can grab them. And then this last one is, are all prescriptions and over-the-counter. So I've got a couple of different spaces for over-the-counter. Oh, and then my mortar and pestle that we actually use more than we think goes up there. And you know what, while I'm at it, I'm going to show you, I have a bottle of aspirin that I've actually had for years. We rarely take aspirin for a headache or for pain, but I use aspirin when I get cut flowers because it helps preserve them. So I'll get my vase full of water, I'll add an aspirin and about a tablespoon of sugar, and my cut flowers last a really long time. So there's just a little tip about how to use aspirin. Okay, so now let's talk a little bit about disposing of medication. So we have had quite a few different meds in our house as we've been trying to manage my daughter's seizures, sleep issues. There have just been a lot of things. And so we have meds, and really you should go through those meds minimum once a year and clear them out. I called the pharmacy about what to do about those medications, either that you're no longer using or have expired. And the pharmacy said, do not flush meds down the toilet, down the sink, down the disposal. Don't do that because we don't want those meds in our water system. So I'm going to show you what they said to do. Okay, so I have just a box that I'm going to use for recycle, because once we empty these, we can definitely recycle those bottles. And so these are either expired or medications that we, oh, and I'm going to leave the lids off of those actually, because that makes it a little better for recycling. So these are medications that we no longer use or that have expired. So as I do this, I go through and I just remove those labels, okay? And so what I'm doing is I'm actually just mixing, I'm putting all of those in there, and because of the nature of my daughter's medical issues, I take those tags off and I put them on a notepad, because I keep track of what she has taken, what's been disposed of, and what we're no longer using. Okay, that's just empty bottles. So I'm just going to put those in there. That's a lot of medication. But in it goes, because if we're not using it or it's expired, it really is not safe to even keep around the house. So, and these labels that are not my daughter's, I can just throw those away. Those labels with that sticky stuff, they can't be recycled, so we take those off the bottles. Okay, and then we're left with this mishmash of medication. So what the pharmacist said to do is to just put it into a container, and then we're going to just pour water over it. And she said to let it dissolve even into, it doesn't have to be runny, but even into just like goo. And then put it into a bag and into the garbage, never into the water system. So I'm going to let that set. It might have to set for a day to get it all dissolved. So I'm just going to put the lid on that and then put it somewhere safe on, in a cupboard out of the way where it's not seen, and just let that dissolve. And then I will put that into like a little sandwich bag and just throw it in the garbage. Okay, so one cupboard down, the counter sorted at least, and arranged things in a way that we can all get to it and we can see very clearly what's what. Oh, and it just feels so much better. One thing I've really loved that has really helped me in this organization is my Brother P-Touch label maker. And I would really recommend this to you to help you get your space organized. I'll put a link for it in the description below. Okay, it's another day and I've made progress. As you see, the counter is much more clear than it was, but we're certainly not finished. You saw me work on the med cupboard. We worked over here, but today we're going to tackle the bottom here and get that done. And so here we go. This drawer is sort of, it's got our electronics. Well, right now it's got a lot of everything. We've got all kinds of electronic stuff. We've got notepads. We've got canning tools, wallets, all kinds of tape, just a bunch of stuff, and it's a mess. This is a real issue because we have so many cords and we're always looking for a cord for something. So I'm going to get everything out of this drawer and then we're going to tackle that issue. Okay, let's talk about this situation with these cords. This is a mess. Takes way too much time. We might even have cords in here that we don't need. And so what I'm going to do is we're going to go down to the craft room and we're going to make a quick little craft using faux leather to help me get all of this organized. So let's go do that now. So here I am in Cricut Design Space at a new canvas, and we're just going to very quickly put together some shapes for our cord holders. Now I really like this. It's right at about 1.5 inches, and it's 2.5 inches long, this piece. So what I'm going to do is duplicate that And then I'm going to bring these over where I can work with them. I am going to flip that one vertically, so it's going the opposite direction, and then I'm just going to bring it over here and line it up there, and I can line up the two pieces together and then come up to a line and do center horizontally, and it will line those up perfectly so they're exactly one on top of another. And then what I'm going to do is weld them together, and you'll see that that gets rid of that line that was in the middle. Let me change the color so you can see that a little bit better. So the line that was there that showed the two pieces is gone, and now my entire piece is right about 5 inches long and 1.5 inches wide, and that's exactly how I want it. All right, let's do another shape here. I really like the look of this one with the dovetails like this. So all I'm going to do here is unlock it, and I'm going to make this one a little bigger. I'm going to stretch this to a full 2 inches wide and 6 inches long. So then when it folds over, it'll be 3 inches. And I just really like that shape. And I'm also going to make that green. I'm just making it so you can see them a little better. Now I want to do another shape that I'm going to pick here, and I'm going to pick this pentagon. I think this is interesting. Let's change it to the green color too, so that you can see how that weld works. I'm going to unlock that, and let's just make it slightly longer. I'm going to bring that down so it's about 2.5 inches, because I like that 5-inch length. I think that's nice. And so I'm going to now duplicate it now that I've sized it. So here we go again. We're going to flip one of them. I'm going to flip that vertically so it goes the opposite direction. I'm going to come and line it up here. I'm going to show you. I'm going to offset. I'm going to put it off-centered. Oops, just a little. And I'm even going to leave a little gap. So I am going to align them by doing a center horizontally, and then it lines them up. Now, if I try to weld this now, it won't do it. These two pieces have to be much closer together in order for me to weld that. Okay, so I need to bridge that gap if I want them to actually weld. So now that I've done that, let's select those and go to weld. And you'll see it puts it together with no line. If I didn't weld it, it would actually cut those as two separate pieces, and I don't want that because this is going to be folded over. So let's set that over here. Let me show you one other way to do a fun shape. So we're going into images, and I want a circle, but I want it to have scalloped edges. So I'm going to type in circle scalloped, and I love this edge with those kind of big scallops and small scallops mixed. So I'm going to choose that, add it to my canvas. Now, I don't want these little holes punched out. I don't want any of that. So I'm actually going to hide by choosing the eye over here on the right. I'm going to hide that top layer. So all I have is that bottom orange layer, but I don't want a hole in it. That wouldn't keep my cords very well. So I'm going to choose a shape. I'm going to choose a circle and cover that up. And I want to make sure I don't have any bit of that circle showing. So I'm just going to go ahead and make sure the whole outline is covered. Then I'm going to select those. Now watch what happens when I weld it. There, it becomes one solid shape. Now, I am going to turn that one green as well because I want to cut every one of these on one mat. Now, I'm going to cut them all out of different designs of faux leather, but I'm going to place each one in a different corner. So let me go to make it, and I'll show you how that shows up on our mat. And then what I'm going to do is just drag each of these over to a different corner like this. Now what I'm going to do is put my pieces of faux leather into 4 different corners and get it cut. So let's go back to the tabletop and I'll show you how I'm doing that. Okay, I have a new sticky mat. My mats were getting pretty old and not sticky, so I have a new sticky mat. Because this is heavy, it needs a little bit of a stronger grip. So I'm going to put this piece up in this corner. I'm going to put the smooth, non-fabric-y side down when we cut. And so that's going to go up in that corner. And I'm really going to push those down so that they really will hold on to the mat. And then this one is going to go right up here. Make sure that sticks way down. Okay. And then this one, I'm going to use this wider part of that scrap. And that's going to go down here. And I'm looking at the layout on my computer to make sure that I'm covering the correct measurements for each of these this way, just to make sure that that whole shape is cut out. Okay, so smooth side down, sort of soft fabric side up, and then I'm going to go ahead and continue. I'm going to get this loaded and cut, and I'll be right back with you. Now, before I remove this, I'm just checking to make sure that everything cut through, and I see that it did, and so now I can remove my mat. So let's see how these came out. I'm kind of excited to see that. Very nice. I tell you, when you've been using the same mats for a while and they're getting kind of unsticky, it really is really nice to move to a new mat. I really like that one. Oh, these are so fun. This is the one I'm most excited about. Oh, look at that. That is so pretty, so cute. Now, let me just point out again that if you don't have a Cricut machine, you can go ahead and just make a pattern of your own and go ahead and cut it out by hand. I mean, this is how easy this faux leather cuts. Just so simple to do with just your scissors. So you can go ahead and do that cutting with your faux leather that way. Okay, I'm going to get some things cleared up, and then I'm going to show you real quickly how we're going to finish these. So easy, but so handy. Now, what we're going to use, we're going to need a hammer and some snaps, and I got these. These are Dritz snaps that I got at the fabric store. So it comes with a bunch of snaps, but it also comes with a couple of tools that we're going to need to set these snaps. And there are instructions on the back about how to do this. These are heavy duty and they are 15 millimeter snaps. So to give you an idea of how these go, I am going to show you two different sizes of snaps. And this one comes with just this one tool. These snaps are quite a bit smaller. These are also Dritz snaps, but these are the 11 millimeter. So I do quite a bit of sewing doll clothes, and so these would be a good size for doll clothes. So we're just going to go through and get some snaps put on these, and we can compare the two different sizes of snaps and the different, like these are the heavy duty and these are called open ring. And so we'll just look at them and see how they all work so that you have an idea of what we're doing here too. I have, of course, down my paper mat so that it'll protect my table. And in fact, because we'll be doing some hammering and snapping, I'm going to get my spare one, and I'm just going to slide that under there too, just to give some extra protection to my table. Okay, so let's start with our watermelons. So this is how it's going to work. Of course, it's going to fold over like that. So the first thing I'm going to do is mark the spot where I want my snap. Way, of course, is using the Crocodile, which I've used in a couple of other videos. You've seen this before, and it has on these side parts a little punch that you can make a hole, and I'm going to use the small one because I want just a tiny hole. So first I'm going to fold this over, get it nice and straight, and then I'm going to get an idea of where I want that snap. So I'm going to kind of put it in place, see where I want it to be, and then and I'm going to line it up with this point, and then I'm going to just push down so that I have a hole there and I can see where that goes. And then I'm going to get my crocodile and punch my hole, and then I can fold it back and mark it on the other side, because then I know everything's lined up. And then line it up and punch again. There we go. Okay, so I have my holes and they're going to line up just fine once I fold that over. So now I'm going to get the snap put on there. Now, to make it a little easier, the first thing I'm going to do is go ahead and sort my pieces so that I have an easier time telling which part of the snap is which. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is take the cap and push it through on the front, and then I'm going to rest that down into this little well. There's a smooth side, and then there's a side that has a little bit of a raised part, and I don't know if you can see that on camera, but I can tell. And so I'm going to put that and let it just rest right in the smooth part of the well, and it actually fits just perfectly into that spot. So I'm going to let that rest in there, this one, and it's going down like that. So it's spreading apart this little post and looping it over the inside of that socket so that it holds tight. It's not loose at all. So now we're going to push that through, and that will sit in our little socket, and then that is going to go with that open side up. So what happens then when we close it up, that's going to go right in like that. Okay, so let's do that, get that in the socket. Same tool, we're gonna put the little pointy end down, and here we go. So now finished, and it snaps just like that. Okay, there we go, snaps. It's, they're new snaps, so they're a little tight, and it feels like that's holding up really well. So that's our first one. So let's talk through just one more. Go ahead and color that in with a this is called the cap. That's going to go through there, and then that's going to go in the smooth part of what they're calling the anvil, I guess, because you're hammering metal on it. My next piece is called the socket. So that's going right there, and then I'm going to use my post, and let's get that hammering done. So we're going to flip this over, we're going to put the post through the fabric and in there, and then we're going to get our stud and set it right in there and hammer. I really like these snaps, but one thing that I would do if I did this again, I'd move this snap just in slightly, because look, when it's closed and I go to open it, it is kind of hard to open because I just don't have much to grab onto there. So, but there, I think that's super cute. All right, so let's put these away, and we're going to compare the smaller snaps. One thing I love about doing things like this is that you get to learn new things, and I really like that. All right, so now let's use these smaller snaps, and we've got prongs and stud and socket. So I'm going to need to figure out where these are going to go, and so I'm going to use these points to help me. So I'm going to just line my ruler up and create a little line here. I don't want it to show really, and a little line here just to give me a look at center, and then I'm going to line up with those points as well and draw my little X and find where those points intersect, and then that's where that snap is going to go. So then what I am going to do is put the prongs, and then I'm going to push that on. And it is sharp. Those prongs are sharp. With my dollar store weeding tool that I use for all kinds of things other than weeding, and I'm just going to push that down. Okay, so I'm going to come through with my socket and lay it right on the prongs. And if you do it the wrong way, you can feel that it doesn't quite sit right. It's hard to get it. It's hard to get it to sit. It's a little wobbly. But if you do it the other way, it'll just sit inside those prongs pretty firmly and just stay there. Okay, and this then acts like the anvil with the bigger snaps. There's a well that rests in. So that's going to turn over, and I'm going to hold that in place and give it a good hammer down. Oh, that went in super easy, and it's nice and tight. Okay, then I'm going to do the same thing where I'm going to center my prongs, get those pushed in, flip, grab my tool and just push that down. Now I remember when we were kids, my mom making our pajamas, and she would put snaps in them, and I remember her being at the kitchen table setting snaps, and she did not have a tool like this. She used an old wooden thread spool. I'm not, so it basically worked the same. So now on this one, we've got our prongs down, and then we're going to put our stud. Same thing, it's going to sit right on top of those prongs. And then this tool has a hole in it. So Mom's wooden spool would sit right over that, and then she could hammer it, and that's how she got the snaps into our pajamas. There we go. I really like that one. And these snaps are a little, they're a little more gentle. They're not so tight as these. These are pretty tight. So that is a heavier duty snap. And for this snap is just really nice. Okay, so I really like how that went on. And I'm wishing I had done this easier snap in here. I think this would be working a lot more easily for me. Okay, now let's try that snap. For this project, I think I really do recommend the not heavy duty snaps. So the snaps that I used are they're 7/16 open ring. It's a snap kit. They're 11 millimeters and they're made by Dritz, and I got them at the fabric store. I really like those, and in fact, in the end, those two will probably be my favorite. So here are the snap holders that I made, and I made a few more than what I showed on camera because we do have a lot of cords. And so we're going to go ahead and weed this out, and then I'm going to assemble everything using these cord holders that we made. I try to put these in the cord holder such that we can see both ends of the cord, so that when we know what we're looking for, it's easier to identify that end. And on one of them, I went ahead and labeled it with a Sharpie marker about exactly what it was. It's an unusual cord, and so I went ahead to label that exactly what that is, because that is one that we tend to be looking for a lot. So those are just some ideas about using these cord holders. So I have my basket clean, I have my cords contained. So there are two ways to use these cord holders. You can wrap them around like this and then put your snap, or you can put the whole thing within the snap. Generally, if it's a bigger cord, I like to just hold the whole thing right inside the snap. I think it's just a lot easier. And then we can go ahead and just lay these in here. Some of these cords come with attachments that need to stay with the cord, so I'm just keeping those together like that. And then I know which ones we want on top. There are some that we use more often. I actually found two cords for things that we don't even use. We don't even have those electronics anymore. So those can go there. So that is much better than when we started. So much easier to find, to just grab the cord and you're done, you're ready. Look at this pile of stuff, of everything, of things that were in that drawer that do not belong there. And so even once you just take out the things that ought to go somewhere else, all of a sudden this is much easier to deal with. Before we move on to our next project, let me just make a little comment about these snaps. You can get handheld snap setters, and you get things in place and then you squeeze them. I have found that I have a hard time squeezing them enough to really get those snaps to set. And especially where you're working with a real heavy duty snap that's tighter, that the metal's heavier. I find that really hard to do. And so using a hammer, for me, just works better because, unless you may have really strong hands and then you can set it well. For me, I just need to use the hammer to actually get those to set well. So that's just a note about those. Okay, so let's do our next organization project. A few years ago, before we moved, I actually made these boxes. I made them to an exact size that I wanted. I had a shelf that was exactly this deep, and I was using them to store and actually get ready to move DVDs. And so I made it just a little wider than a DVD and the exact depth of my shelf, and I wanted it so that the DVDs kind of just sat along the top. Well, so we used these boxes and they worked great. And it took me a while to actually make them out of some heavy cardboard so they'd really hold up. And so after we moved and we had a different place for the DVDs, I kept these because I knew at some point I'd be able to find another use for these. And so with my organization of my catch-all area and cupboards, I measured, and these are a great depth for what I need in my cupboards to get things organized. So we're going to use those again because I shopped my house to find what I would need so I don't have to buy much. That's what I'm trying to avoid, is buying a lot of stuff to get things organized. They're not pretty. These are going in the kitchen, in basically kitchen cupboards, and so I want them to not be so ugly. And so we're going to cover these. So what I'm actually going to do is basically measure around my whole box. So I am going to cut this at 60 inches, so I have a little bit of overlap. What I'm going to do is just work my way around this box as I peel off this backing that protects the adhesive. I'm going to cut it right along there, because I want to keep the adhesive on this top part for a little bit longer until I get things really going. And I'm going to cut that backing paper. I'm not cutting through the vinyl, I'm cutting just through the protective backing paper. There you go. We went basically from this to this, where it's covered and nice and is protected and will be nice in our cupboard. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and finish this one, and then let's get back together up by the cupboard, and I'll show you how this is coming together. clutter gone. Everything feels so much better, works better, it's faster, it's just easier to deal with. And so I think we're done. Thanks for joining me. Be sure to watch for my next organizing video. I do organizing, homekeeping, crafting, a little bit of aga cooking, and so I hope you'll join me for that and subscribe to the channel. My next organizing video, we're going to be tackling that command center and back haul. So thanks for watching. See you next time.